Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making a sandwich loaf, and for this I'm going to be using a Pullman Loaf Tin. I bought one of these having tried one when I was over on holiday in Canada, and I made cinnamon swirl bread, but today I'm just going to be making a white sandwich loaf just as an experiment. And this is what the Pullman tin looks like. Now this is 13 inches, you can get them smaller at sort of 9 inches like a normal 2-pound loaf tin, and it has a lid that slides on like that, so that the dough goes in here, the lid goes on, and it rises up during baking to give you a nice square loaf. So that's what I'm going to be using, and for the ingredients I have 600 grams of strong white bread flour. I have 120 millilitres of warm water at 40 degrees Celsius, that's about 110 Fahrenheit, and into that I'm going to sprinkle 9 grams of yeast and a little bit of sugar, and I'm going to let that work for to activate for 10 minutes. Now 9 grams of yeast is more than one of those little packets of active dry yeast, and so if that's all you want to use, you could use just that amount, but you may have to actually prove the dough for slightly longer than I'm going to. I also have 60 grams of softened butter. I have 76 grams of egg. Now for that I used 2 eggs and took some out, so I had 76 grams, and I will use the remaining egg for something else. And I have 25 grams of sugar. I also have 180 millilitres of milk, which I will be warming to 43 degrees Celsius, that's 120 Fahrenheit, ready for the recipe. So that's not warm yet. I'll be doing that as we go on to the next stage. So in 10 minutes I'll be back with you when our yeast has activated and we're ready to start making the dough. Okay, well I'm back with you, and I've heated our milk to 48 Celsius, 120 Fahrenheit. Now I should say that if you don't want to do these temperatures, as long as the water is warm but not hot, and as long as the milk is warm and not hot, then you should be okay. So I'm going to go on to make the dough. So the first thing we're going to do, having activated our yeast, is to pour that into the bowl of my stand mixer. Now you could do this by hand, but I find it easier to do it with a mixer. And I'm going to put into that the butter and the remainder of my 25 grams of sugar, and I'm going to beat those until they're all combined. And then I'm going to add the egg, which will help get them combined a little bit better. And the milk. And I think that's okay. And then what I'm going to do is to change to my dough hook and scrape off the butter from the beater. and I'm going to add the flour. Put the flour in before I put the dough hook on. And I'm going to knead that on medium, slow medium, until it's all come together. Okay, so that's been about 5 minutes, and the dough is slightly tacky, which is what we want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tip that out of my bowl onto a very lightly floured work surface. And then I'm just going to pull out this extra little bit, and then I'm just going to form that into a ball, like that, and I'm going to put it into a greased bowl and allow it to double in size. So first of all, I'm going to put it top side down and then turn it over like that. That's just so that I get a little bit of grease on the top to stop a skin from forming. And I'm going to cover that, and I'm going to allow it to prove for 2 hours so that it can double in size, and then I will come back and we'll shape it and put it into our tin and allow it to rise again before we bake it. Okay, well, I'm back with you, and I've let our dough double in size, as you can see, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just knock that back. I'm going to tip it out onto my work surface, which I have floured. And then I was going to say, you can roll it out if you want to, but what we're aiming to do is to get a sort of sausage shape which is slightly smaller than the length of our pan. So having flattened that like that, I'm actually going to turn it over on itself and then turn it over on itself again, just like that. and I'm going to pinch the seam all the way along and just tuck the end under a little bit like that, and that's almost good enough. So what I need to do is just pick that up and put it into our pan, and push it down and then I'm going to cover that with our lid by sliding it on, but I'm actually going to leave a gap at this end. That's going to let me see, because what I want to do is that has to rise until it's just about a half an inch below the lid. So I'm going to cover it with a tea towel, then I can lift the tea towel and just peep in to see when it's just half an inch below the lid. At that time I will close the lid and I will bake it. So by then I need to have my oven preheated at 180 Celsius or 160 Celsius with a fan, or 350 Fahrenheit, and I will put the closed tin into the oven and bake for 45 minutes. Then I'll take it out and I'll come back and show you what the bread looks like. Okay, I'm back with you, and I let my dough rise in the Pullman loaf tin until it was just half an inch from the top, and I've baked it in the oven for 45 minutes, and I've just taken it out of the oven. So we'll take the lid off. It's still very, very hot, obviously. And there's the loaf. So now I hope it's going to turn out easily. And that's it, it's turned out. And I'm actually going to just turn it over again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cool down completely, and then I'll come back and we'll cut it and see what it looks like inside. Okay, I'm back with you now, and our bread has cooled down. So I'm just going to cut it and see what it looks like. And there we are. That's a nice, they're quite small slices in terms of 4 inches by 4 inches, but I think that's ideal. It looks very good indeed to me. I'm going to taste the crust just without any butter, just to see what it tastes like. That is very good. Perfect for sandwiches. And so I should be making this again, and it's very good, I think. Well worth the effort. And what I will try to do is make some wholemeal ones with a mixture of wholemeal flour or whole wheat flour and strong white bread flour, so that that's what I prefer to eat, in fact. So that's what I'll do on another occasion. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen, as always, there will be an eye that you can click on to take you to the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video for that as well. And I will be back with you in the very near future with another recipe. So until then, happy baking.